And welcome to the Next Play podcast, Building a Championship Mindset. And we've got a couple special guests, actually recurring guests. We've got one new first-time guest. We have Tessa Mitchell. Tessa is a longtime friend of ours, and she is a yoga specialist. So Tessa, welcome to the show. Great to have you. And we also have recurring guests. Both have been on multiple times, but never with each other, which is interesting. So we have Josh Templeton and we have Emma Barnes. So welcome everybody. How is everybody on this Sunday afternoon?
Great.
Nice and
Good.
cool. Nice and cool where I
Good.
live. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a
It's
little
awesome.
cloudy here. It's not too bad.
A little cloudy. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate we've been trying to get Tessa on to talk yoga for about 6 years now. She's canceled
Why?
37 times on us. But now we have locked her in, and I've got Josh who also has taught yoga, and Emma and I who want to know more about yoga. So this is going to be it's going to be a good time. So um anyway, so Tessa, tell us how you got into yoga and how it all started.
Well, I started taking yoga about 10 years ago, mainly for just like the physical practice. I was about to get married. I was, wanted to lose a little weight. So a friend of mine introduced me to hot yoga. And I kind of fell in love with it. My first yoga teacher is actually the teacher who I took my yoga teacher instruction under, which is kind of here nor there, but kind of full circle how that goes. But I just loved it so much that I wanted to share it with other people because it helped me more than physical. Like it became mental breath work, played into it, being able to control like my emotions, myself, my body, just different things. It helped me mentally more than it helps me physically at this point in my life. And I just wanted to
And so
share that with people.
and Tessa,
So
you are a
I
former
became a
college
teacher.
basketball player, and Emma was your roommate, which is ironic that
Emma was
I,
my roommate. I actually
that
played softball and basketball in college.
wow.
Did you know
That's
that?
yeah,
I think you knew that.
which
You
were
had
you
to know
better
that.
at? Better at
Um,
basketball?
I liked basketball more. I don't know that I was better at basketball than softball, but I liked basketball more. So,
What position? I feel like yoga would help more in softball than it would even with basketball
like,
because the
with
amount of
shoulders and
mind you're
things.
in yeah, the
Yeah. Well,
the
in high school,
mindset
I was a
stuff.
pitcher. In college, I played shortstop and center field. So,
Wow. So, Josh, do you tell us about yoga from your experience? You taught it at the high school level. How'd you get into it?
Well, started with a class, taught it to mostly girls. There was a couple boys that were in the class. The biggest class we had was 18, and it was really to get them to kind of slow down, put their phones down, breathe, and just like let their thoughts come, let them go, let them just get a little bit balanced. And even some days, they'd be exhausted or whatever because they had exams and they were up the night before, and we'd savasana for the whole time. They'd just sleep and listen to music and just slow down. My approach with high school kids in the class was stress reduction, breath work, and some really slow flows, and then you get the body control and the movements and all that stuff with it. So
So basically, you had a yoga class that these kids got grades for,
mhm.
and they got to go. Yeah, and I
Everybody got an A as long as they participated, and they participated. They did good. They kind of got to where they liked it and wanted it because
that
they thought it was helpful.
that would have been the greatest class in the world for me as a high schooler.
Yeah,
Go in there, stretch
take a
and
nap.
sleep. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
I
And
mean, I
they're
get to
always
sleep.
breathing.
especially as the only boy, right? Like in a class full of girls that are
I
Oh
all
did
my,
Oh,
have
are
yeah.
you
Tommy would
kidding
have
me?
loved that.
I did have a class that was one boy and 17 girls, and he was the linebacker on the football team. And he had to sit in the front. He couldn't lay his mat, square
That
mat.
is funny.
That is
Wow.
funny.
Wow. So hot yoga, what is hot yoga? What is that? I mean, that sounds
So you go
uh,
into a room that is hot. Like it can be anywhere from 96 to 106-ish degrees, depending on what class you're taking. I teach power yoga in that. I teach yin. Yin is a great practice. It's just basically stretching. That's what I do with athletes mostly is yin because they need that stretching. I also teach some weightlifting classes in there and hit classes. So, I mean, you really get that sweat. You really have to breathe. You really have to be able to control your body as well as your mind and your negative thoughts as you're sitting there about to die. So
the 96
it also has some great cardiovascular benefits too. Like saunas have been proven to have great cardiovascular benefits, maybe even to lengthen your life. So incorporating yoga with that heat has some great cardiovascular benefits as well.
Coach Barnes, have you ever done yoga?
Maybe like once or twice, never the hot kind. I mean, I spend a lot of time that hot, but I don't know that I want to be that hot while I work out. So
yeah. So Josh, you ever done hot yoga?
I've not done hot yoga. No, I haven't. I definitely would be up for it, and I'll probably really be up for it on one of those cold days in Colorado.
Oh my gosh,
Definitely be up. That. All right. Anyway, stay focused. I'm not letting my mind wander. ADHD. Josh is up for hot yoga. So anyway, tell us how you got involved with UT, Tessa. How did you? I mean, that's incredible. You're putting. That's awesome.
Well, it's probably the best part of my week. I get to go to the University of Tennessee on Mondays and Wednesdays and work with the football team. On Mondays, it's a small group. The guys are required to be there, and then some of them don't. They just come voluntarily, because we're there. And on Wednesdays, it's the full entire team.
The whole team, the whole football team.
The whole football team is there. Every single football player. Most of the coaches show up. Some of the coaches do it with us. So it's a pretty cool experience. It's nice. I've built some fun relationships. Those kids are great. But I got
How
into
does that work with? I mean, where do you do it with all that? Do you do the hot yoga or the regular yoga?
No, we just do regular yoga. I mean, it's hot in there. We do it on their the turf field.
In the indoor facility, I guess.
Yeah, at the indoor at Nayland Thompson. Yeah, we do it at the indoor facility, and sometimes it's really hot in there, But no, it's not hot yoga. It's just yin. They just stretch. I'm sorry. I gotta get a drink of water. I got an itch.
Do you have to be? What about this whole stretching a cold muscle? Like what? I mean, I didn't.
Well,
we
they
didn't
don't ever
know
come to
that.
us
We didn't know
cold.
that was bad back in, when I went to
Gosh, I'm
college
dying.
10 years ago.
I know they don't come to us cold. They come to us after outdoor practices, after lifting. So I've never seen them like, good grief, completely cold. But I have no idea. We just
So
they
Josh,
get in there.
what about cold stretching? When did we learn that was bad?
I mean, I don't know if like static stretching. I don't know if it's bad.
But cold muscles, like cold. I mean, static stretching is where you don't move, obviously, but the cold part where you're not warmed up before you.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like an active stretch is proven to be more effective. But I don't know that it's bad for you. Like, is it bad?
I don't think it would be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make I wouldn't make like some quick movements, but when you think of stretching, you're like slowly moving into things, right?
Yeah.
So you are warming up those muscles. So I don't think this stretching could ever be bad for you.
It's kind of like during a yoga flow, you start with small movements and kind of like expand to bigger ones, or you start with smaller breaths, shorter breaths, and then go to like longer breaths where you're holding it longer and stuff like that. Is that the kind of thing that you're doing?
So I usually start off pretty slowly. I generally start all of my classes in child's pose, and we just take a few breaths. We come to our mat, we recognize our body, where we're at. If we have anything going negative in our heads, we just try to like sigh it out, breathe it out, let it go. And then I do start with some smaller movements, some cat cows. We do child pose push-ups. I always like a bird dog. I start out slowly focusing on small muscle groups before we move into that more movement, more flow, more power. Even if I'm teaching a weightlifting class or a HIIT class, I do the same thing. I just think it's important to stretch those tiny little things, especially wrists when you're doing all those chaturangas and down dogs. I think it's super important to stretch all those little small areas before you go into the
Emma, do you know what she's talking about? She's speaking in tongues to me, these catarangas.
No, she's just trying to say fancy words to impress you at this point in time.
Well,
I was talking about yoga poses, but yeah.
Y'all have obviously never taken a basic yoga class.
No, that's what this is for.
I had her. Yeah, I had her on like the first four.
I think you should come take a yoga class before I come teach it to your students or your players, your people.
Well, I do think that it's an incredible benefit, and we had our team at Lee this guy, Will Barnes, got us into it, and I loved it. Absolutely love what it did. And I was so anti-stretching before that. And then I go to Illinois, and they're always doing stuff. They were always doing something, and I could, and we never had any injuries. So I totally buy in as far as athletes themselves doing it. And so I think it's so critical. However, Tommy Brown will not go in a yoga class because Tommy Brown is the least flexible person that the good Lord has ever created.
But that's
And he
why
also
you go to
has,
That's
yoga.
exactly the person that needs to do it.
See,
It
I
is because
haven't,
you become more flexible. I promise to you. I have people that come in and they can't move. I have I have an athlete that comes to me that just tore his Achilles, and he's used yoga to recover. So, I mean, he's a big time athlete. Like, he's an NFL football player.
I'm sold. I am
So
sold.
you should do it too.
That's why I'm having you on here, because I want
Tommy,
you
is
to
it
sell more people. However, me myself has an ego the size
it's
of
your masculinity that's getting
Texas.
in the way.
What?
I walked into a
there's a word for that. It's your masculinity that's getting in the way. I think there's a word for that.
I didn't ask you to chime in on this particular piece of the conversation, Josh. I'm saying that I am so inflexible, I would be embarrassed. It's like,
okay,
but there's so many, that's the thing. So you
but that brings up a good point. Is like, how does
for every pose?
How does Tessa con all these college athletes into buying into this? Because like, Tommy's not the only one with masculinity issues in the athletic world, right?
There's more than just me there, right? Yeah. Some of these guys, I mean, they're not flexible at all. The football players are not flexible at all. Like, not flexible at all. But they do. Some of them have come leaps and bounds, like, as far as their flexibility after practicing, so it's unbelievable. But there are also modifications to every pose. So if you're not as flexible, there's other options, so you can still stretch and eventually move to a more complicated pose.
It's not uncool in the athletic community anymore.
No, it's not.
Like,
I'm not doing it because it's not that. My whole thing is not. I 100% know it would benefit me. I 100% know it would benefit anybody I would ever coach. I want to involve Tessa, you in my clinics more. I want to make it a bigger piece. However, I will not attend a yoga class with other people because I'm embarrassed, because I'm scared to fail, which is everything I teach against.
I was about to say,
that's what I was about to say. You need some mental strength here.
Listen,
more reason for you to come to yoga.
Actually, I might do it. I might do it. Because I'm into this thing.
I walked into a class the other day, Tommy, and I had more men in my class than women, and I commented on it because that doesn't happen very often.
That's not an issue either. I'm not worried about being the only. Like,
let me tell you something. You're full of it. You're full of it. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You're trauma.
Call me the other day and tell me, I want to do something that makes me uncomfortable. What could that be? What should it be, Josh? What
Here
should
we
I do?
are.
Here we are. I know, like, I am. That's why I might do it, just because of that.
Podcast.
Just because of that.
So here's what I think. You're going to come down to the Hardin Valley girls while you're there. Let's get you here a little early and come to a class, or come an extra day.
No. I'm just going to do it with them, with the girls that can't there.
That'll
be there. I'll get my little mat and I'll do it there and I'll try it. That'll be much more.
You can be in the back so nobody looks at you.
Exactly.
But I can promise you, and that's something that I say to my students. I'm like, it's just nobody's paying attention to you. Focus on yourself, focus on your breath. I can guarantee you that nobody is looking at you unless they don't know what they're doing and they're looking around trying to find out what pose they're supposed to be in.
So it's
nobody's paying attention to you. You're not that important.
Oh. See, that's big. That's big. That's something I want people to understand. It's not a competition, because everything tends to turn into that.
Totally no.
Yeah.
No, there's non-judgment.
See, I have like a trauma from an aerobic class back when they used to do aerobics, and 1 and 2, you're stepping and all that stuff.
I wish I could have been there.
And so I was like 5 feet. I was like 5 steps behind everybody else. And so I have this trauma like that. Like, everybody was looking around. It's like, I thought this guy was supposed to be a college athlete. And so I'm like 5, and I embarrassed myself. So anyway, it's trauma. So I'm going to have to get over it.
So Tommy,
you just have to get over it.
From there, the rabbit hole is, how have you embarrassed yourself? Let's hear one.
Oh, you're delving into my mind. Okay, so we are building championship mindsets here. If we're delving into, I was embarrassed because I'm used to, I was no good at it, and so it was embarrassing to me.
It's like Richard Simmons.
No, here's the thing. I wasn't just the worst person in the room. I was the worst person in the room of very unathletic looking people. And I was the worst person by a wide margin. So that is
that's how I feel on the golf course.
It's trauma.
Hey, yoga is very beneficial for golfers.
I'm not.
Shoulders,
that means
your mind.
I don't care enough.
Yeah, let's talk about the mind, because that's really what this is about. Because we all need to be more flexible. I mean, we can all acknowledge that. It's there's so many benefits, and I think anyone listening to this. But let's talk about the mind. How do we slow down our minds while we do this, and what are the benefits of that?
I mean, I think the first way that you slow your mind down is just with breath work. There's a couple different things you can do. There's two that I focus on when I'm teaching class. One is box breathing, where you inhale, you choose them at number. I usually use 4. You can use 6, you can use whatever. But I inhale for 4, then you hold your breath for 4, then you exhale. You exhale slowly for 4 counts. You don't just breathe out. And then at the bottom, you hold for 4, and then inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. It slows your heart rate down. It slows your breathing pattern down. It slows your mind down, because you're really focusing on your breath instead of focusing on everything that's going on inside of your head. So like if you're a pitcher, if you're about to shoot free throws, if you're a quarterback or whatever, like you can like sit there, just take 5 breaths, and focus on that breathing, and you immediately calm down. Your mind slows, your heart rate slows down. Even when I'm teaching like a HIIT
behind
class,
that too, like you've got to make sure you breathe out, though, isn't that the
you have to breathe
part?
out? Yeah. I mean, obviously. Yeah, but you're slowing your breathing down. So you're inhaling for 4, you're holding at the top, being conscious of that for 4 counts, and then you're exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you hold it again for 4.
All right, let's practice. Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Let's practice.
So, okay.
Come on, Emma.
Right,
you ready? Let's go.
Everybody
Josh.
ready?
All right. So hold on. All right, so what are we doing? Inhale.
I'm just gonna say I'm gonna talk you through it. So the same way that I would in a class. So inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Control your breath. Exhale for 4, 3, 2,
I forgot to breathe out.
1, and then hold it. Okay, let's do it again. Here you go. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 1, and then exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it again for 4.
So exhale
3.
for 4.
Yeah, you're going to do everything for 4 counts. It's box breathing. So boxes have 4 equal sides. So you can do 4 counts. You can choose 2 counts. You can breathe in for 2, hold for 2.
Why is Josh laughing at me right now? See, this is the kind of thing.
Because you can't count to 4, Tommy. You don't understand how to count to 4.
It's his ADHD.
And I'm counting for you.
Tommy, you're just like the
okay,
girls
so
in my
Tommy,
class.
I have another breathing exercise that you can do that you don't have to count. Okay. So you just take a very deep inhale through your nose. Inhale all the way to the top. Fill your lungs from your belly to your heart space all the way to the top. And then hold your breath. Take an extra sip. And then slowly exhale out through your mouth. It has the same effect. Slows your heart rate down. Slows your mind down. Slows your breathing down. So just inhale. Take a big deep inhale. Fill all the way up to the very top. Take that extra sip and then seal your lips. And then open your mouth. Side up. Let it go. So those are just 2 that you can use. I mean, it helps you calm down before bed. If you're anxiety, you have stress, just breathe.
That's really good. I think so. Let's talk about.
How much have you drank today?
That box breathing.
I haven't had anything to drink either.
Tommy,
do what?
That's a really good tip. The box breathing for sleeping before games when your mind's racing. Like doing that at night will actually help you sleep. Like really I've done it for coaches, players, anybody. Just do the breathing techniques when you're in bed when you can't sleep, and it slow things down.
Tessa, in all seriousness, one of the things that dealing with female athletes, especially who are so intelligent, they just overthink things. So their brains
I have one of my own.
Yes, you do. And so they're just going nuts. And so just getting them to stop and just breathe, clear their head. It's so critical. So how can we do that? I guarantee you, Coach Barnes overthinks it too. Like her brain just goes crazy all the time. So how do we?
Very intelligent. You just have to breathe. I mean, it's just the constant practice of it. And when it comes to yoga, the breathing helps because you're holding these poses, right? Your body's saying, hey, I can't do this. Like stand up, like get out of this pose. But you're focusing on your breath. So you're controlling your mind, which controls your body movements, which is kind of the same thing with athletes. Like, I mean, you're dying. It's at the end of the game. There's 3 more plays. The game is tied. Like your body's killing you. But if you can just stop and focus on that breath, calm yourself down. You're going to be able to complete the task. You know, it may not be the result you wanted from that task, but at least you're going to be able to complete it. You just got to breathe, man. You just got to practice it. You got to sit down, meditation. You can just sit and meditate and practice that breath work. When you meditate, you know, your mind is supposed to be empty. You're just supposed to sit there and literally be mindless, have nothing floating around in your head. And that's difficult for everybody, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And, you know,
And,
just go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, now I've forgotten. I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, body control too. Like, body control is one of the big separators for athletes in any sport. And why wouldn't people purposefully try to practice body control and putting their bodies into positions that are uncomfortable? So
in the mind, slowing your mind down is such a big part. It's incredible.
That's something that I do with those UT athletes, because we are just stretching, right? Like, we're not doing these big yoga flows or anything, but like, they get there and they're cussing, they're like, oh shit, you know, whatever, when you're trying to help them get deeper into that pose. But you just have to talk to them and tell them to focus on their breath. And when they do, you should see like you can touch them and just feel their body melt and relax. It's so unbelievable. But if you just can get them to focus on that breathing, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's big time. Big time. So what benefit do you see for high school athletes, Emma, when you work with all these high school athletes? I mean, I know you got some that aren't especially intelligent, that don't need to slow their brains down, that need to actually get some things going in their brains. But then you have a lot of people that need to slow it down. So how much of a need do you see for this?
I mean, I feel like it's probably more in the moment kind of stuff, right? So like, as you were talking, or as she was talking, just the idea of like in the middle of a game. And it's a little bit harder to think of, you know, basketball is so fast, right? Like, everything's going so quick all the time. I can see the benefit even more so like from a coaching standpoint, right? Or like, you know, Tessa mentioned free throws. Like, that's a moment when the game slows down a little bit. But like, I would say a high percentage of errors that you see on the court or on the field come from somebody making a mental error, not a physical error, right? Yeah. So like, most of the time, you know, you go to the wrong side, or you go the wrong way, or you don't block the right person or whatever. And those are mental mistakes. Those are not physical mistakes most of the time. And so like, if in that moment or between plays or before they snap the ball, you take that second, you know, the quarterback takes that minute to just like recenter everything. The best quarterbacks are the ones who can detach themselves from that, right? Who can take that pressure out. Or the best pitchers or the best hitters are the ones that can take that second and detach everything else around them. You know, we joke a little bit and say like, every pitcher has to be a little bit mentally unstable, right? Because that's the only way that you can do that job and block everything else out, because it is so high pressure, right? So like, that's what you have to be able to do. So whatever that looks like, you know, for some of them, it's like stepping out of the circle and cracking a joke, or stepping out and taking a deep breath. It's all the same concept. It's all the same. Like, let me recontrol my mind, because I'm not in control of my thoughts and my mind right now. So like, whatever that looks like for each individual person. And I would say for a lot of them, taking that moment to just clear whatever's in there puts them back in control.
Being dumb helps a lot. It really does in some situations. Josh and I have talked about that a ton, you know, being dumb, and not necessarily just being dumb, but to be able to clear your head. What about getting into that flow state, Tess? I know anything else besides the breathing and the meditation, anything like that you would suggest? The movements? Yeah, well, like to get into where you're not thinking, you're just in a state of flow. Like Emma, she was talking about, you know, you can't think in basketball. So you're just how to get in that. It's almost an out-of-body experience when you're playing your best basketball. It is an out-of-body experience
when you're playing. Yes, you know, your adrenaline's flowing, like all the right things are happening. But I think that happens when you're most relaxed and when you're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to miss this layup, or I'm going to throw a bad pass, or what happens if I do this? Like, especially like you said, like girls, man, I've coached high school basketball. They're all head cases. It doesn't matter who they are. Your best athlete on the team, you know what I mean? Like, they're still a head case. Like, you just really have to just focus on that breath and just let it go.
And I'll tell you the irony.
Know that you can, you know what I mean? Like, you have to get those negative thoughts out. Like, that's a lot of the breathing too. It's like when you exhale, just let it go. Exhale those negative thoughts, because if you do that, you're going to be able to perform better, because you're not going to be doubting yourself. Like, who cares if you mess up, right? Like, just breathe. If you mess up, breathe. If you hit a big 3 at the end of the game, breathe. If you had to walk off, breathe, you know, like all of those things. Like, you can just focus on your breath. I feel like
that's good. That's breathe. How good a free throw shooter with you? Okay.
I was a pretty good free throw shooter.
Not great, but pretty good.
I mean, I was decent. I don't talk about myself like this. I don't know.
All
I was
right,
a
so
good free throw
here's why
shooter.
I'm asking. So
I could shoot the ball.
I would imagine you were more of a pit bull, mean, like because that's just that you were kind of
What are you
mean
trying
out
to
there, which
say?
is a good thing. That's a really good
I
thing,
was
being
very
mean.
aggressive. Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so most people that I think most athletes that are really aggressive have trouble dialing down, and like one of the toughest guys Josh and I ever coached, he would like bank free throws in because he'd be so jacked up. Well, all right,
yeah.
be a pit bull on defense, but you got to calm down and breathe on offense. So
So when I
how do
play,
we?
I mean, people talk trash, right? And when people would talk trash to me, like shooting free throws or whatever, like I was gonna make it. Like you weren't gonna talk shit to me. I was gonna show you that I was better than you. Like when I was a pitcher, when I was shooting, when I was doing anything. So that just kind of motivated me. I don't know. I like, you take the ball from them, they talk crap to you, and you just go show them. Okay. I don't
Well,
know.
and
I didn't have that.
is it a matter of actually being calm, or is it a matter of just being in the zone? Right? Because like you don't actually have to take that adrenaline part away to still be in
No,
control of what you're doing, right?
I don't
So
think you have to
maybe
take
it's
your
not a
adrenaline away to
necessarily of
breathe,
calming
right?
down. Yeah,
No,
maybe
it's
it's not
just
a
taking
necessarily
that
like doing it
breath
to
in that
remain calm.
space. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know that it's, and some people need to be calm, I guess, in those situations. It just depends on the personal individual. Like, what are you going to do with that breath? Do you want that
Yeah,
Well,
breath
and
to
I'm
calm
going to
you
go ahead and
down? Do you want
say,
that breath to make you focus? Do you like what do you want it to accomplish for you, you know?
I
fascinating.
feel
I would,
I feel like everybody's peak performance is at a different level too.
For
Like
sure.
some athletes will be great when they're jacked up. It's just finding what is that level that's really well for you. One thing that we did with yoga, avoid Tommy, with the team basketball team was visualization. I mean, we would during the end of our breathing before every single game, we didn't, we finished it with a little flow, worked them hip flexors, and ended up the meditation, breathe, and then visualization. And sometimes I would narrate what I wanted to see out there, them do. And sometimes it would be a mistake that happened and what was their response. And they're visualizing their performance out there. And I feel like that kind of like lets them kind of get into the game and go into warm-ups a little bit more prepared mentally.
Something
Yeah.
It
I
worked
do
for us.
at the beginning of all my classes, I have them set an intention for their practice. I tell them it can be a word, it can be a mantra, it can be anything for you, but just something to keep you on your mat when things get uncomfortable or difficult or your mind starts to wander. Just something you can come back to. And for an athlete, it's the same thing. Maybe that game you really want to focus on making your free throws because you did such a terrible job before. So that's what you focus on when you're doing those breathing, like watching the ball go through the net, like
Go
watching
for
your
it.
form in your head, just like visualizing what you want to happen and then just
Mm-hmm.
go do it.
Yeah.
Is that ever counterproductive where you overthink that though and like
I don't think
dwell on it?
so because you're moving and yet like in my practice or even in that, like you think about what you're going to do and you do it. Like that's, I mean, when you're an athlete, right? You're there for a common purpose, a common goal. Your team's common goal is to win, right? Whether it's your
Yeah.
performance or somebody else's. So if what your team needs from you that day is for you to hit those free throws, then I don't think you can overthink it, especially when you incorporate that breath work because you're like in the yoga flow practice, I'm doing these poses and I'm dying. It's 106 degrees in here. But I know that my goal is to hold this freaking pose until the yoga teacher tells me to move to another one. So I'm going to focus on my breath and I'm going to breathe no matter if my muscles are shaking or not. Like I'm focusing on my alignment of my body, like all of those things. I'm thinking about those things, but my mind is not wandering because I'm focusing on my breath. I'm focusing on the task at hand. And I think that's a lot of the breathing is for the focus more than it is for the calming.
What about someone who has incredible ADHD like me? It's got to help, right?
Oh, it's even more
Absolutely.
important.
It's more important. And I mean, I think people with ADHD, like moving your body is so good for your mind that if you focus on that, it helps to calm your mind a lot. My husband has ADHD, and if he doesn't exercise, like I can't stand to be around him because he's just like everywhere. But if he works out when he gets home from work or whenever it is for him, like that calms his mind, and I just think that movement and the breathing, it's important for people with ADHD, more important maybe than somebody who doesn't have that issue.
I think I'm gonna go
Meditation has
yoga
been
flow
great
right
for me. I
now.
know that. You what, Josh?
I think I'm gonna go do a yoga flow right now. I just need it. That debate's got me all messed up.
Do it.
The what's got you all messed up?
The
No, I
debate.
didn't say. I didn't
That
say
was a
it.
debacle.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, that's
I didn't
yeah,
say
we're,
that. I'm not
we're
bringing
not,
that up on
yeah,
the podcast.
yeah. That's probably wise. So, well, this has been great. And so how can we like learn more about this? What would be your suggestion for beginners like myself and a beginning athlete? Where
Find
can
a
we
yoga class. Don't get on. I mean, you can get online. Obviously, there's like lots of flows and things like that online, but go find a yoga flat class. Find a good teacher that teaches you the alignment. Like every time I call a pose, I try to tell them where their body is supposed to be, their alignment, where they're, all the things to protect your body. You need to find somebody who gives you lots of modifications. Just go take some classes around town. I know that Cleveland probably has some. I know Chattanooga has some hot yoga, so you should
And
do
there's,
that.
there is. I know people should do that, but I know there's some people that won't. But if you're a
So
coach,
there's lots of great online sources too. I'm sure you know plenty with
yoga with
being a teacher.
Adrienne, and I don't remember if it was yoga with Tim or something like that. There's YouTube. They're really good at what they do, and that was really how I kind of taught myself to teach, lower level high school stress relief yoga. But it was from those videos. And
so how long are we talking? How long if we, how long are your UT sessions?
We're there for about 40 minutes. We start with some meditation or end with meditation. It just depends. We take requests, whatever they need that day. Some of them, like he said, some of those boys come in there and they're tired and they lay down and start meditating and they sleep the whole time and I just leave them. There's several of us. My instructor is over the program that we have there, the lady that I learned from as far as my teaching goes. But yeah, it's just 40 minutes. Some days
really
we don't
cool.
have that much time. Some days they come in and they're like, you've got 30 minutes, like do with it what you can. And we do. And they just go with it. We do a lot of hips.
Wow.
Hips are tight, so that's mainly what we work on.
There's that meditation quote, like if you don't have 20 minutes to meditate, then meditate 40. I would imagine yoga is about the same, the same.
So, when I was learning the whole practice or whatever, meditation was an important part of it. And she told me to start with 10 minutes. Just wake up and start with 10 minutes in the morning. Try to make it to 20 a day. You can do 10 in the morning, 10 in the evening. If you've got 20 in the morning, do it. But like just sit there and be with your thoughts and let them go and just breathe. You have to be able to quiet your mind. If you can't, life will be a struggle for you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's beautiful. That really is. Let's end on that. And for college students too, goodness, all the things they've got
all
going
the students,
on.
all the things.
Golly. Well,
find a yoga class, take it.
All right.
I personally think that if high school and college coaches are not incorporating yoga into their practices, they're not.
I mean, it just helps so much with injury. I feel like, oh my goodness.
The problem is it's kind of like
the mind,
all the mental training I do. It's like, getting them to find the time to fit something else in, even though it's so critical and so important. That's what I mean.
But we would fit in shooting. We would fit in this. The mental game for high school kids is everything. I mean, it is. They can go sideways so fast through no fault of anybody, just getting in their own head.
Yes,
absolutely,
100%. And it really is. I need to start adding this in more to what I do and the mental piece of what I do, which is all I do. But
you've been meditating for a long time. You can teach that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to get over my own trauma, though, like we talked about. And I'm gonna work on this.
Go to therapy.
I need that. I'm gonna work on this 4 breathing thing here in a second. So
do it. The box breathing. It doesn't have to be 4 counts. Like it depends on your lung capacity, right? So it can be 2 counts, it can be 3 counts, it can be 7 counts. Just make sure you have the box. You breathe for 3, hold for 3, exhale 3, hold for 3, and just go through it again as many times as you need or want.
This is really good. We need to do this again. We need to have another session, and I'm gonna have improved by the next time we have you on, and you're gonna be so impressed. So anyway, it's gonna be great. Well, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Hey, if you haven't already, subscribe, give us 5 stars. If you've got something negative to say, just keep to yourself, because if you have anything negative to say about Josh, or just make sure you send it to him directly at his email, his AOL account, which is still active.
Still active, going strong.
Oh, funny.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.